So I'm not seeing this reported anywhere, and this is just me thinking out loud, but I think they need to investigate whether it was this guy who did both of the attacks. Melissa Hortman and her husband were killed. Home invasion, shot, and dead. Both, her and her husband. And John Hoffman and his wife also home invaded, shot, and survived. Both of them survived. Okay? Now, I realize that might sound like, oh, well, you know, he just made a mistake on the first one. But the fact that he failed to kill both of them in the first one and then successfully killed both of them in the second one, to me, if they don't have hard evidence that it was him in both attacks, they need to look into whether he had an accomplice. Well, I'm glad I waited to do a video about this situation in Minnesota, because now we have all of the pertinent information that is necessary to know what we're actually looking at here. As in, we know who the guy that committed these murders is, and we know his relationships to the very top of Minnesota government, right? So that when everybody plays this game, you know, this game of, ooh, which side is to blame? Oh, which side? Oh, hey, who should we blame for this tragedy? And it's like, I mean, blame the guy who shot the government officials and also murdered their spouses for absolutely no reason. Okay? Obviously. It's like, well, it's because of the rhetoric over here. You're like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Okay? It's definitely not that. This person's a psychopath. Like, a person who would do this is a psycho, no different than a school shooter. Now, I'm about to do a segment about the idiots on X who are spreading misinformation and embarrassing themselves, just talking toxic nonsense, okay? But first, we're going to take a look at the genuine evil actors here. And I'm talking about MSNBC, and I'll show you exactly why. So just in case everybody's not up to speed on this, let me give you just a 5-second overview. You have a Democratic lawmaker, the top Democrat rep in the state. She was murdered, and so was her husband at her house. And then you have a state senator on the him and his wife were both shot and critically injured. Okay, so you have one dead lawmaker with their spouse dead, another lawmaker attempted assassination, and his spouse also. Okay, the guy who did it was appointed by Tim Walz onto some board. Okay, he had a 4-year appointment directly from Tim Walz. And again, the point I'm going to be making throughout this is that the political leanings of this person are irrelevant unless there is conspiracy, and we are going to be looking at whether or not we think there's conspiracy later in the video. But again, this, outside of the people who were planned or executed these assassinations, this right here is as evil as you're going to get. Listen to how MSNBC covers this. This is the last thing that I did in the video, was this MSNBC segment, and it was so insane that I stopped it, and I'm like, never mind. I need to go shoehorn this in at the beginning because this will blow your mind. Like I said, the conspiracy stuff comes later after I torch some of these imbeciles on the internet. But listen to this.
Given, this is also not a normal question, because I'm going to ask it about the Department of Justice, right, which heretofore, prior to this administration, it's always been held that the Department of Justice is an apolitical body. Do you see it as such now? And if you don't, the fact that these are two Democratic lawmakers that have been attacked, one killed and one right now fighting for his life in a hospital after being shot multiple times, do you have any doubt, any concern that because of political differences, biases, this will not be addressed the way it should be?
Okay, so right out of the gate, the way that you're going to know that whoever's talking about this case is a piece of shit and a bad person is if they are citing what party they're in. I know everybody wants to know about that, but they're like, the Democrat person killed, Democrat person wounded, and they do not mention the spouses. Okay, I'm looking at this like a human being because that's what I am, and I'm like, I don't get blinded by political leanings to a point where I would forget that this person's wife got shot also, or that this woman's husband got murdered along with her. That's not a relevant detail in your story. All that matters is which party they're in. And then you're going to have the audacity to frame your question, questioning whether or not the Trump Department of Justice would shield the perpetrators of these like ghastly murders and attempted murders from prosecution because they were killing Democrats. You actually asked that question. Do you think that's unintentional? You think it's unintentional that they're framing this as if there is some world where Trump would not only like be cool with, people murdering Democrats, but that he would actually potentially have his DOJ like shield them from prosecution. Hey, this is something that we want to keep happening. Now, one thing everybody wants to see happen is you liking this video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't done that yet. It's absurd. It's pure evil. It's pure propaganda. There's nothing about it that's even moderately near the truth. Okay. I'm curious. This is right where I stopped it at the end. I have not heard what this guy's going to say to that question, but I really hope that there's someone that is sane who's going to say, like, guys, okay, like, you could disagree with Trump on stuff. You can say he tweets too much or whatever, but the implication that he would be supportive of murdering lawmakers and their spouses is so ludicrous that you should be ashamed of yourself even saying it. Let's see what he says.
It should be apolitical, right? That's what we have seen from Republican and Democratic administrations up until this one. Right now, Donald Trump has in place people who are more loyal to him than they are to the Constitution.
That is unbelievable that someone would straight face that. You want to know the actual, like, do you guys feel like Bill Barr was some kind of yes man for Trump? No, he was not, right? Jeff Sessions, he, like, you know, Trump had this big falling out with him, whatever. But the idea that, and this, you're telling me this last Department of Justice was not operating as a political entity for the Democrats? It's like the stupidest thing ever. And really, and he's going to make a statement like that. They're more loyal to Trump than they are to the Constitution. How could you say a thing like that? Do you have any evidence for that? That's the message that you're sending out to your six viewers. It's evil, dude. It's evil. And as I'm going to point out to you guys with these morons on the internet that are spreading all of this horse shit, trying to blame this on these people or that people, you want to blame it on someone? Blame it on these people, okay? This is who's responsible, and they are doing it intentionally. Okay, let's continue.
And the rule of law. And what really, if I can rewind the tape, if I can, just 4 months ago, we saw this president pardon violent January 6 offenders, people who were convicted.
I do not understand how this kind of thing still works with anyone. Like, if you are still falling for this line, okay, all he proved right there is that his premise that the Department of Justice was an apolitical entity up until now is 100% provably false. Okay, that's what you're actually showing if you really want to get into the January 6th convictions and the time that they got. But you want to know who the biggest idiots out of this entire thing are, aside from the actual perpetrator who committed these murders? Are the people whose entire purpose as of this moment is to try to root out what side the shooter is on so that they can full throttle blame the other side, like the side that they're on. You know, like, oh God, please, please let him be a registered Republican, or let him be whatever. And you know what's hilarious is that blew up in your face, didn't it, dude? Huh, Kyle Kolinski? How'd that go? Because Kyle Kolinski, guys, Kyle Kolinski was been putting up gems all morning, dude. So here we go. So this is, you guys, I assume, know who Kyle Kolinski is, right? So he did this little number from his car. It was so important that he gets this out. And in this video, you guys can hear him. Okay.
All right, guys, I have some absolutely colossal breaking news here for you. So it's official. We now have pro-Trump MAGA terrorism happening in this country.
Oh.
2 Democratic lawmakers and their spouses were shot by a pro-Trump terrorist. I'm going to give you the details of that.
Okay, so that's as much as you even need to see, guys. Okay, so his premise, his first 3 sentences are absolutely dead wrong, provably dead wrong now, because guess what, guys? Okay, and there's a lot more to this case than just this, but you sure you wanted to play that game, dude? Because oopsie, here's the person who did it, Vance Luther Bolter. And why is that relevant? You know, he's just another crazy shooter, right? Oh, wait, does he have any interaction with the state government that might have driven this in some way? Bolter, 57, was appointed by Tim Walz in 2019 to serve a 4-year stint on the governor's workforce development board. Interesting. Yeah, we're going to have to take a look at this post that he made also. But so we're trying to figure out like what his alignment is, right? And it's like, oh, well, there is this thing where he was personally appointed to this small government board by Tim Walz. You may recall he was the vice presidential nominee with Kamala Harris. I think you know who Tim Walz is, right? Okay. Oh, he's a big, is that a big Trump supporter? Someone served on a board appointed personally by Tim Walz. Hey, are you going to take that down? You know, it's like, hey, Kyle, are you going to take that down? What you said? You said pro-Trump. You said pro-Trump. You know nothing. You know nothing about this. The only piece of solid information that we have is that he is a Tim Walz appointee. Look at how so that comes out after he already posted the video, right? No, video's probably doing good numbers. So he's like, I'm not taking that down. So listen to this. This is what he posts. So the right-wing terrorists that murdered Democratic politicians and their spouses had a massive assassination list, including other Democrats like Tim Walz, Keith Ellison, and Ilhan Omar. He also threatened the No Kings protesters and was an anti-abortion extremist. All of the fake news outlets citing that he was appointed by Tim Walz to some bullshit business board are trying to obfuscate the reality that he was far right. Shame on those lying scumbags. If anything, the lesson for Democrats is don't appoint any Republicans to anything. Like, do you understand how stupid you are, guy, if you actually think that you're making good points here? Because the point I'm making is that trying to decipher which party the guy is what a sheep dimwit would think, okay? Obviously, you and I do not see eye to eye on a lot of political issues, but check this out. Hey, Jesse on Fire, what are your thoughts on extremists who murder senators of your opposing party? Are you kidding me? You should give them the electric chair and send a message to everybody that if you do things like that, you're going to have, it's not worth it, you know? Like, obviously, I'm against that, okay? When I found out Joe Biden had stage 4 cancer, you think I was excited? Go look at my ex. I said, that's a terrible tragedy. The guy was an American president, man. Okay? So, do you really think that if the guy happened to be a Republican, that would in any way indict the whole Republican Party? It's the dumbest thing ever. And so, in reverse, you're like, well, I mean, listen, most people you try to put into these categories, right? Like right or left. Like, are there any extenuating circumstances that might supersede right versus left in this case? Well, like, what do you mean? Like, was he a personal appointee to a board from the current left-wing governor who he clearly has a personal relationship with, or at the very least was well known enough to get appointed to a board? Like, do you think maybe that would supersede that? Well, I don't know. He's a Trump or whatever. It's like, you understand how stupid this conversation is? Like, you really understand how dumb this is? Now let's actually, let's look at some other stuff coming out on this. And let's read about who the guy is, and then we'll look at how this is being covered by other mainstream sources. Amazing. Okay. So former appointee of Tim Walz sought in deadly shootings of Minnesota lawmaker and her husband, No Kings flyer in the car. Okay. So former appointee of Tim Walz is being sought in connection with the assassination of state lawmaker and shooting another, police source said. Vance Luther Bolter. Hey, what are the odds that a person with that name is a Tim Walz like appointee? It's like, oh yeah, for sure. That dude probably doubles as a substitute teacher for 13-year-olds. He's like, you know what I do when I don't have a subbing job that day is I tutor kids at home, and I see a lot of potential in you, young man. I think that maybe we should do this. Listen, the first one's free too. I want to help you. You said that you don't have a father, right? That you're with your mom all the time. You're a single mother child. I want to be that father figure for you. So why don't you come over to my house and I'll tutor you? Let's see. We'll play a game of how many marshmallows can I fit in my mouth. It's really fun, you know? And then it escalates from there. Fucking sick bastards. Anyway. But he allegedly posed as a police officer when he shot John Hoffman and his wife in their Chaplin home early Sunday, leaving them seriously injured before moving to the Democratic House Speaker Melissa Hortman's house, where he is believed to have slaughtered her and her husband. Sources told the Post. Here's the thing about this, actually. Okay. Are we sure that he didn't have an accomplice? Now, I led off this video with a teaser about why I am suspicious that there might have been two shooters. So I don't need to relitigate that or discuss it again because it's the first thing you guys saw. But here's why that's important. Okay? Here's why that's important. You have to ask yourself, what is the purpose that he was trying to serve by committing these crimes? Let's just say it was just him. Or, well, actually, no, we can't do that for the point that I'm trying to make. Okay, what's the actual purpose of this violence? Is he trying to make it widespread violence? Is he targeting those specific lawmakers because they did something that supposedly went off, that the MAGA people couldn't stand? Or is it possible he's trying to frame it as if on this day right now, which is they're doing all the no king stuff. He wants to frame the MAGA movement as now escalating it to where they're killing lawmakers. Could it have been that? Because I'll tell you exactly why it's important whether there are two shooters is because that would indicate conspiracy. Okay? Like, so if you got more than one person, now you're not one crazy person. Now you have more than one person. There was planning involved, and there has to have been a purpose. And if he has an accomplice who also is somehow tied into whatever, then you could start to figure out what was really going on here. And that is important, okay? Because if it's a crazy person, okay, if it's just a crazy person who thinks that they hate Democrats or thinks they hate this politician, whatever, okay, well, that's a crazy person. If there is a larger political purpose for what happened, that's a really big deal for us to uncover, okay? Whether it's a Democrat or Republican, that honestly, to me, is one of those things that indicates that you have a much larger conspiracy, is where there's ambiguity about which side the person's on, okay? Thomas Michael Crooks, right? Dude, that guy, when you look at what he was into and not into, it made no sense. Like, you're like, all right, well, there are these posts that he made, whatever, here that are, super hardcore, like leftist, whatever. But then you also have this stuff over here where he's supposedly a registered Republican. It's like that ambiguity is intentional when there is a larger conspiracy. And maybe the Thomas Crooks one is, but this guy right here, okay, same thing, right? He's a Republican, but he's been personally appointed by Tim Walz to a government board. That's nice and ambiguous to make it to where both sides will see it as the other people are responsible. Okay, so that's important to understand. So moving along, though, Bolter, age 57, was appointed by Walz in 2019 to serve a 4-year stint on the governor's workforce development board, documents show. And the killer had flyers with the words "No Kings" in his car, a reference to Saturday's planned protests against the Trump administration, as well as a manifesto and list of other politicians' names, said police, who briefly cornered the shooter at Hortman's house before the suspect fled. Again, all of these cases, okay, all of these cases that are really suspect, like these really sus cases, how come they always have these manifestos and they have some, again, ambiguity, right? Which side is he on? Oh, I don't know. Luigi Mangione gets arrested and he has a manifesto on him. Shocker, And then this guy gets arrested and he has a No Kings flyer, and also is a registered Republican apparently, but he is an appointee of Tim Walz and he has a list of other politicians' names. Hey, I have an idea. Question: why on earth would you have a list of other politicians that you're going to whack out, like on paper? Like, are you serious? The guy got away. Okay, the guy got away. Why would that not be digital somewhere? You know what I mean? Like, you're keeping a kill list on paper while you commit these crimes. That makes sense to everybody? Like, I realize, like, a psycho, maybe they're just psychotic, but that seems pretty consistent. You know what I mean? Pretty consistent. Now, I wanted to show you this because, again, this is another toxic human who is an opportunist and a genuinely repulsive human being. Whoever this JoJo from Jersey, I don't know why they always show me her stuff, but her and Taylor Lorenz would be best friends if either of them were capable of having friends. You know what I mean? They would actually hate each other, though, because they're identical to each other. And, you ever met a person where you're like, man, that person would hate themselves if they were another person? Taylor Lorenz, for sure. JoJo, probably her too. Has a single Republican come forward to denounce the politically motivated and deadly shootings of lawmakers in Minnesota? Yes, every single person with a brain has. Like, it's a serious question. It's like, and then listen to these people. Of course not, Joe. Why would they? That is what I'm wondering. Trump can't be bothered. Just shows how grossly incompetent he is. No, they're too busy trying to say it was a Democrat. Did a single Democrat come forward to denounce the firebombing Teslas? No. Did a single Democrat come forward to denounce Trump's assassination attempts? No. Did a single Democrat come forward to denounce the riots? No. They only incited that. Yeah, it's just like, why are we doing what about, like, no one's on board with this stuff, dude. Well, at least we aren't, okay? Or at least I'm not. I am equally against shooting politicians, rioters, looting stores, okay? Like, I don't care which side of the fence they're on. And that is how everyone should approach things. You know what I mean? And it's just unbelievable, dude. But now let's listen to this, okay? So we know the high-level details of this case. Listen to how MSNBC is covering this, and then keep in mind that the point they are making is that Trump is the one inciting violence in this country, while they paint this picture, a false picture of the country.
Given this is also not a normal question, because I'm going to ask it about the Department of Justice,
Right.
which heretofore, prior to this administration, it's always been held that the Department of Justice is an apolitical body. Do you see it as such now? And if you don't, the fact that these are two Democratic lawmakers that have been attacked, one killed and one right now fighting for his life in a hospital after being shot multiple times.
Hey, what about their spouses? What about their spouses? That's how you know. Right there is how you know that you're dealing with propagandists and bad actors. Okay? If you mention the fact that these lawmakers were killed, and you talk and specifically cite the fact that they were Democrats. Oh, these two Democrat lawmakers were killed. And it doesn't cross your mind to bring up the fact that the senator's husband was murdered with her, and that the other senator's wife was shot and is in critical condition. If that doesn't seem like a relevant detail to you, then you are the problem. Okay? Because that's instant. When I think about this tragedy, I think about the lawmaker and their spouse, because they're also victims. I'm not looking for a reason that I can jam this through some kind of, black colored glasses, Trump is the worst, or the opposite in this situation.
Do you have any doubt, any concern that because of political differences, biases, this will not be addressed the way it should be?
It should be apolitical, right? That's what we have seen from Republican and Democratic administrations up until this one. Right now, Donald Trump has in place people who are more.
Oh my God. She just framed that as if the Trump Department of Justice would not prosecute a person who murdered a state representative and a state senator. They framed this like that. The fact that they would even pose that question, obvious it's propaganda, but that's the world that you're trying to create in your viewers' minds, that the Department of Justice would support or shield anyone from prosecution if they murder the opposing party's politicians. Do you understand how insane that is? Do you understand that this is the problem? Okay, I know left-wing people, you don't get it, but I am trying to show you, okay, this is how they poison your brain. They don't have to say that the Department of Justice is actually going to shield them. They just ask the question. It's like, listen, I'm just asking questions. Do you think that it's possible that, since Trump obviously supports Democrats being murdered, I think we can assume that, right? Like, we can assume that. Then maybe his Department of Justice is going to look the other way on this, double homicide and attempted murder of state lawmakers, right? You know what? I'm going back to the beginning of the video. I'm going to make this the very first thing that I cover, because this is where it needs to start. This is that big of a deal. That's what I got for today. I love you guys. Bye-bye.